I think I had an interesting rabbit hole for you guys to kind of look into tonight.
Sick.
Okay.
Let's hear it. The floor is
Yeah.
yours.
Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you like a little bit of information, and then maybe on your end, you could pull up, just Google it, and then you can kind of cross-reference the dates because I'm going to try to connect some dots, I suppose.
Okay.
So last year around the same time, right? You remember the whole drone situation was going on in New
Yep.
Jersey?
Of course.
So if you think back in that time, on November, well, actually, I'll just say the first date. It was November 13th. The FBI put out a statement. The People's Republic of China targeting commercial telecommunications infrastructure. So if you Google that, there's like a whole thing about it from the FBI, and you'll see that it says November 13th on it.
Yep.
So it's like the first day that they really kind of brought this up, right? That it's something that was going on, but it's like when they first started kind of putting it out there. And then, you know what was also on November 13th is the first sighting of those drones that were in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the Wikipedia page for the 2024 global telecommunications hack, and then also the drone sightings, you'll see that this is, they're both literally were started on the same date, which I thought was kind of like a fascinating set of dots to connect here.
Yep.
And after that, I think maybe it was like 2 weeks later, there was another article that the FBI was a notice they put out, and then a bunch of articles came out. I think it was like December 4th after that. And it was actually saying something kind of peculiar, I thought. It was saying that, if you have an Android phone and you're texting to an iPhone, you want to be aware that it's not encrypted communications, right? Like if you're doing iPhone to iPhone, you have it's your iCloud account, so by default it's kind of encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was an interesting thing because Android and iPhones aren't new. Like, why would they just come out of the blue and then just say that at that point in time, right after after the telecommunication thing, after all of these drones, now they're just saying this random stuff about, encryption. So I really kind of looked into that. And I'm just going to kind of tell you what I think was happening, and then you can kind of cross-reference some pictures on your end, because I think you'll start seeing that things begin to kind of fall into place and make more sense. But you'll see that the things that people were reporting that they were seeing over New Jersey, right? It was in general, I would say some of them look kind of different, but some of them just look like maybe like a quadcopter with maybe an appendage underneath, or some of them look like a plane with an appendage underneath. And then something you were repeatedly hearing that was really kind of freaking people out is they were saying, even people in the government, they were saying, I saw this thing hovering over my house after I was looking into this. Do you guys remember hearing that?
My sisters actually had one over their apartment, and they don't live near an airport, and they've seen planes in the sky above, and they were like, this is unheard of for them. They've never seen anything that close, and they said it was huge. They sent me video back then, and it was, of course, they sent me like, it might as well have been Bigfoot, super blurry. But no, I heard a lot of that, and I saw it from my sisters.
So now let's factor this, right? If I were China and I was doing a kind of like a multi-stage intelligence gathering operation,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably do that in over the course of quite a period of time. The first thing you would do is you would target telecommunications across the country, right? You would dig up a bunch of data. And we already know that happened because they said that the troves of data that were stolen included government officials in it, which is quite a convenient thing about this, right?
Yeah. Last year, do you remember last year, real quick, do you remember how they said all of our social security numbers were leaked?
All of that.
All of it.
And I'll kind of throw a little bit of information out there as well, is that, so I'm a developer, so just kind of like by default, I'm just kind of like a critical thinker, right?
Mm.
And prior to me being a developer, I actually worked in telecom and I did some engineering stuff. And I have like an above average understanding of how things work and what's stored on file from a metadata standpoint. So here's what I think happened is that, and this is why we'll never get the truth of what actually happened, because I think it actually sounds worse than aliens. It's actually, but I think that China or Russia did some type of operation where they stole a bunch of intel on government officials off of accounts, which included metadata off of people's phones. They took this trove of data, they stored it on servers somewhere, and then they launched drones with something called an IMSI catcher, IMSI. If you look up an IMSI catcher drone, you'll see pictures of these drones with an appendage underneath. And a lot of them are actually made by China, ironically. But I challenge you to kind of maybe pull up a couple of pictures of them and look at what these things look like, because then you'll start to realized they kind of fit the description of what people were seeing. It's like, hey, that's not a plane. What is that thing on the bottom? Like, it doesn't really make sense because people aren't used to seeing an appendage on the bottom, right? So essentially, what happens is here's like a good reason that you'd use this, right? Like if you got lost in the middle of Alaska, your phone is dying, you have no signal. I could actually fly a drone to you and it has an IMSI catcher on it, and it actually would deploy cell phone connection to you, right? And then you might be able to make a phone call enough to save your life. And then it would also target where you're at, right?
Right.
So I think actually what was happening and why people were reporting really weird things, right? They were reporting that these drones were flying in a grid formation. And they were also reporting that they would just stop over people's houses, and specifically over government officials' houses. So now we have government officials that had their information stolen. You have drones flying in grids over their house and then stopping. And then you factor in that those things had an IMSI catcher on them. It's essentially a way that you could fly a drone over a house, deploy an IMSI catcher, override the local tower, and then you could steal metadata off of phones by throttling the speed on them as well. So there's multiple malicious things that you could actually do here, but I think that essentially they were deploying multiple types of cell phone signal, and then they were capturing data and using that data to cross-reference with the trove of data that they already stolen to figure out where people lived. And it's not something I've actually heard in the news, because I think it requires like a little bit of re-engineering to think about, and then you actually have to have some knowledge about this as well, like how these systems actually work. But when you I think when you look at it in this reference, it starts to kind of make sense of why they were stopping, why they were going in grids, why they were coming out of weird spots at night. And then I watched this one interview, and it was like someone was saying that, like, yeah, it just hovered above me and my phone was freaking out. And they were like, yeah, and they were convinced it was aliens because of that.
Yep.
But really, their phone was probably freaking out because their phone was losing connection from a local tower and trying to reconnect to this drone, right? Like their phone is malfunctioning essentially because
they were definitely hijacking frequencies, because there was another report from somebody who was a drone operator. He didn't want to reveal his name for fear of professional fallout, but he was flying a drone at the time in the area where these other drones were. And he reported that his drone actually had been hijacked, and that they forcibly landed his drone in a field and basically took it down. Now, we know we have the technology to do that because we've seen people doing that, as simple as like soccer games and stuff like that, bringing drones down, stuff like this. But it all requires, frequency hijacking. So the fact that these drones were able to do that to another drone kind of suggests your theory a little bit more.
So now that I've kind of upsold you on this theory based in tech and intelligence gathering, we're going to kind of jump forward a little bit, and then I think you're not really going to know what's going on after this, because this next part kind of really confused me. Okay, so we had the December 5th note that went out by the FBI about the iPhone to Android thing. And like I said, if you're actually on a tower, if you're on a malicious device, because this IMSI catcher is flying above you, and you're texting Android to iPhone, it's unencrypted. They just instantly steal your information, right? So that's why the FBI would say that. But let's fast forward yet another month. Do you guys remember what happened on January 1st of this year?
I remember the cybertruck blowing up at the Trump Tower.
The cybertruck blowing up. And there's some interesting things when it comes to the cybertruck blowing up, right? This guy, his name was Matthew Livisberger. He lived in Colorado Springs, Houston Special Forces. Now, He rents a cybertruck from Colorado Springs, kind of out of the blue. Big Trump supporter. Drives down to Las Vegas after sending out a series of emails. One being Deshaun Ryan stating that he was special forces. He wanted to meet with him. Sean Ryan didn't see the message, but ended up reading it on his show after the guy had passed away. But he essentially said that he worked on anti-gravity types of drones. These drones were, I think that he said that the United States and China both had this technology. The technology was impervious to bringing them down, and essentially they would eventually present themselves in a way that'd be like catastrophic in war, right? Because you have this device that's impervious to being brought down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy, one of the theories was that, he was in a cybertruck because you can actually drive someone to a location and have themselves blow themselves up, and it looks like they blew themselves up because they're not actually driving the vehicle, right?
Right.
Like, this thing was on autopilot. So this guy goes, he blows himself up, and prior to blowing himself up, they said he shot himself in the head with a deagle, like a desert eagle,
Yeah.
And anyone who knows anything about a desert eagle knows that you're not shooting yourself in the head with a desert eagle and then blowing your vehicle up, because that would actually do some pretty serious damage, right? That's like an anti-armor type of bullet that would actually blow an enormous hole in the ceiling above you.
Mm-hmm.
So just like nothing really made sense about this whole case, and the more I read into it, more it really just kind of bothered me, right? So I intentionally did not start out with this part in the story, but I actually have footage to this too. So August of 2024, before the drone incident started, right? I actually live in Colorado Springs, right? I live not too far from where that guy lives, and I live in. If you were to draw a line from like my house to where he worked, I mean, it's like a pretty close. It's not too far away, right?
Okay.
So I'm in my office, just kind of wrapping up work, and then my kids, and they come into my office, and they're like, Daddy, come look at this. And I'm like, hang on, I'm gonna finish up work. They said, no, actually, come look at this. So I go outside, and I go out back, and I see what looks like maybe like 3 foot across silver spheres that are in a triangle format flying straight towards the mountains, which is actually abnormal for Colorado because I live in the Front Range, and things fly away from the Front Range. Especially, it's weird to see because these things had no wings on them, right?
Okay.
So all around, it was just kind of like this weird thing. I run in, I grab my camera. I actually have footage of it. I have it on YouTube as well. So if you guys want to watch that,
that'd be
can.
cool. How can Brandon look that up?
I'll if anything, I'll just drop it in this chat. Hang tight for just a moment here.
So you said 3. What were they? Spheres?
They're like three spheres flying in a straight line. That's really what made it ominous, is that they were just flying in a straight line. So I go, and then I grab my phone, and I run back outside. Now they're like a little bit further away. But you can see in the video that they're really not that far up. They're kind of low to the ground. They might be 150 to 200 feet off the ground, which is really weird because I live in an area you shouldn't be flying anything like this. But like I said, I live in Colorado Springs. It's like massive amounts of military stuff here, right? So I'm gonna put that in your chat now.
Cool.
1 second here. But yeah, my little dude is talking in this video, so sorry he has a little high pitched voice, but there's the short right there. But I'll have you watch. We'll watch this maybe, and then we'll chat about this.
Did you drop this in Zoom chat, or are you on?
Oh, I actually dropped it in your chat room chat.
For
ambient
on Rumble or YouTube?
Rumble.
On Rumble or YouTube?
Oh, on YouTube. Sorry about that.
All right. Can you see it?
Let me drop it.
I'm not seeing it.
You don't see it on YouTube?
Mm-mm.
It's like it's right below where someone says Omni barcodes. There's a YouTube video short.
They might have redacted you because I don't know if they let you actually throw links in some of these chats.
Let me see if I can't just put it in this chat here.
There's a Zoom chat on here that you can get it into, which it should come through. If you toss
everyone's
it in there.
saying links don't show up in the chat. Sorry about that, because I am very curious to see this. And you said this happened
and
on
I have this on my phone.
while you're pulling it up and sending it over. Can you repeat what day you saw this?
So actually, I think the day was specifically July 30th,
Okay.
maybe the 29th. It's on that video, I think, the
Okay.
short that I ended up uploading. But yeah, it's just interesting that, you have this guy who goes and blows himself up in Las Vegas after this rash of drone sightings, and he's stating that China and the United States have these types of drones that are operating with an anti-gravity type of technology that technically shouldn't even exist. Everyone calls this guy absolutely crazy. And then several months before he even did any of this, I live right by him, right by the base he said that he worked at, and I had essentially saw when and recorded what he said that he saw.
Did you believe that story? Because I had reservations about it.
When I heard it, I was like, that sounds kind of wild. And then I thought about what I personally recorded, and if you draw a line back from my video, it goes directly to the base that guy was working at. And I'm not going to say what account it was, because for one, this account actually kind of is annoying. It's a liberal account on Twitter, but I posted this video on Twitter quite a while back. And a very big account reached out to me that does intel stuff, and they said that they were in Colorado Springs and saw the same thing over Carson, which I thought was an interesting corroboration, just like to what that Livisberger guy was saying as well. But I need to figure out how I can link this video without dropping this call.
I will say everyone on Rumble is saying on Rumble you can drop chats.
If you well,
Come on,
you can do it in Rumble. I mean, you can also just break the hyperlink and just
Right.
throw the rest
To
of
me-
it in there, and I could just assume the .com is at the end. I mean, it's the
Oh,
link itself
actually, I
it
have
won't
an
allow.
idea.
So just
I wonder if this will work.
But it was interesting seeing them try to connect that story, because I just said this the other day about Sean Ryan in that specific episode. I was like, this seems a little too, I don't know, CIA narrative-y. It just kind of reeked. But I also know that they as in the government has been trying to develop this technology. So I don't put it past them. I just thought it was interesting that they're going to try to marry that idea of the Cybertruck to the anti-gravity stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I all around just think I really don't know what to think about that Livisberger guy. What I will tell you though is that I'm friends with people in the military, and if you know anyone that's in the military, ask them who the most sane people are. Right? You might hear about people getting out of the military who do absolutely crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They end up in these really bad scenarios. But people who are in active duty military that are in special forces generally are vetted to the point that they're really not mentally ill. They're very capable people who aren't making up this type of stuff. And also, probably the second corroborating factor that he actually said something was classified is that they actually classified his manifesto, right? Like,
That's right. I did hear that.
and other things about it, if you look at everything about the vehicle blowing up, that thing was an absolute inferno, right? He blew himself up in inferno. But they identified him at first by his ID. I was like, how did this plastic ID?
Sounds like passports. Sounds like passports on September 11th.
Yeah, like that type of thing, right?
It was weird. It was weird. Yeah, I just feel like we're in an era of mass false flags, and I question everything. I'm also jaded, and but I also study history, and we know that there's a long history of this kind of thing where they sow discord, they kill innocent people, they sacrifice their own citizens, they blow up things to help form a narrative to control everybody. And there were 2 terrorist attacks, if you want to consider that one a terrorist attack. I don't think anyone died at the Cybertruck thing other than the guy, if he was even a real. But there was also the guy in New Orleans who drove through the New Year's Eve crowd.
Yeah,
and
I thought that
story
was interesting too. They were both in the military as well. Okay, here's the link. I just put it in the chat here for that short. Let me know if you can see that.
yeah, I got it.
But yeah, you can hear my little dude in this video.
Well, I'll kill audio for all intensive purposes here, just because it's not vetted. I don't know what's in it. So.
Oh yeah, sure.
But we can definitely watch it at the very least here.
Good.
Let me see. All right, so yeah, it's gonna be probably it's super small on my screen. Probably be a little bit bigger for you guys at home, depending on what you're watching on. But there's definitely what looks like 3 little dots here, or 3 bogus spheres, as we like to call them here on the show.
I'm gonna lean into the small one over here.
And I had never heard of those like Sphere things prior to this. Actually, I think that came out like maybe like a little bit after last year, after I had seen this in July. But I guess another interesting thing also is that I mean, you're not going to be able to see it if you're just looking at your screen. I actually can only see when I'm on a computer. But I think around 24 seconds in the video in the top right corner, there's actually a bunch of them that are in a kind of like a weird, almost like V formation as well. And you can see there's 2 coming out of the clouds around 24 seconds as well, coming down.
There's a lot. Who recorded this video?
I recorded this video.
Yeah, there's the 2 up there.
Looks like they're moving pretty slow. Is that how it looked?
Yeah, it looked like they were just kind of gliding, to be honest with you. And it looked like they were spinning as well, which I thought was like a weird part about it. You know, you would think if you were seeing like a series of balloons or something like that, right? Firstly, my kids definitely would not come and get me and say, "Daddy, come look at these balloons." Like, my kids would be excited to see balloons. I have little kids, right?
Right.
And in general, you know, on 100 out of 100 times, you take balloons and you throw them in the air, they're actually going to chaotically disperse up. They're not going to just stop and then just start going to the left.
No,
while
yeah,
other ones
they
are
don't
coming down out
follow
of the
flight patterns. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, so that's like another just thing about it that kind of just confused me when I was watching this. It's like these things are going into the mountains. They're kind of maintaining a triangular formation, and I don't know. It just really did, and they made absolutely no noise.
What
right?
happened after you were done filming? Did you watch them just disappear?
I actually got my car, tried to follow them, and I could not find them, to be honest with you. I got my kid, and we drove down the road to the right of this, and there were some people pulled off. I thought maybe they were looking at it. Nope, these people were chatting about something else. They didn't see anything.
Interesting.
I followed it, and I could never catch up to whatever those things were. It's kind of perplexing, especially considering, there's an airport by here, and that would be, you just cannot fly stuff like that around here. But if you tie into my initial theory that this is just some type of advanced drone surveillance type of thing, then it starts making sense because I live in Colorado Springs. I live by several, bases. I live by that neighborhood that those things are over. Absolutely, there are people who are in the military that are that live there, right? So it would make sense. And then also, kind of, I want to point this out as well. If you take the video and then you just kind of just drag the slider along on it, my observation about it is that it feels like the top 2 objects are maybe connected, though they're not. Like, you visibly can see they're not. But it feels like they're dragging the bottom one.
Yeah.
Like, you can almost see that the only one that's experiencing drag is the bottom object for whatever reason.
The other thing I saw some people saying in the chat, it looks like it was glitching the video.
Yeah, the bottom 3 for sure. There's a glitch out point where they kind of disappear, come back into focus.
Is that on your end, or is that something you think was happening?
That might be maybe like an artifact of the video. I'm not super sure about that.
Because the one looks like it disappears, right?
Yeah, a couple times.
I mean, those things do eventually just disappear because I followed them and couldn't even find them, and I followed them in the direction that they were going. I really don't know. I think I'm kind of perplexed by the whole thing of whether I don't think it's. I mean, it looks about as anomalous as this triangular formation of literal spheres flying.
It's definitely weird.
I tend to think it's some weird, whatever that Matthew Libbesberger guy is talking about. I feel like it was something to do with that program, honestly.
Well, I appreciate the phone call. I want to get to some more callers before the end of the night, but I do think there's something weird going on with the drones. I don't think that narrative is over yet. I almost anticipate it to come back in full swing by December, almost like for an anniversary. I would not be
one bit shocked. The CIA thing.
Yep.
Look, whatever week that's happened the last couple of years, I wouldn't be surprised if that returned. But I kind of challenge you guys, if you guys have been talking about the drone thing in the future, just keep my theory in mind because I haven't heard anyone talk about that, and I think it's the only sensible theory other than aliens. Really,
Well, yeah, I mean the communications angle is interesting, and the other thing I'll say is it's sort of different, but it reminded me of the day before, maybe 2 days before October 7th happened. We all got a FEMA alert on our phones. Remember the test? Like you couldn't even turn your phone off, and like you could turn it off, and if you turned it back on to try to avoid getting the FEMA alert, it still came through, and it was very bizarre. The timing of all of that.
I mean, the timing of a lot of this stuff,
Yep.
it is kind of weird. I'm actually borderline tempted on showing you guys another thing too, but I know you said you have to get the other calls.
I do want to get to other callers, yeah, but you're free to call back. You know, we'll be here tomorrow,
sure.
and we'll be back on Monday next week, and we can continue this.